My name is William Lawson, and this is Disposing Religiosity. The constant struggle among the religious, philosophical, and scientific worlds are more than apparent when one considers the great controversies that have arisen in the past. Yet today we are living in an age unlike any other known in history. Today in America, the struggle of ideas no longer carries with it the looming threat of punishment by those who would intolerate such things. But instead, we live in an age where the constant struggle of power has been subdued by a dispositional, alien force working outside the will of mankind. This force is described as Jehovah's Jihad. My guest is Timothy Evans Carter. He is author of the book Jehovah's Jihad, Religion Checked and Balanced. Tim holds a master's degree in biblical languages and is also founder of the Accurate Angelistic Association. He has been a student of the New Testament for over 20 years. He is the husband of one wife for 28 years and is also the father of 2 children. Tim, I want to welcome you.
Thanks.
So this book, Jehovah's Jihad, obviously there's some terms in it that are discussed that possibly could take on a different connotation. For one, this word jihad. Now, we normally associate the word jihad with the Islamic radical movement over in the Middle East, but it seems like you've taken this word and you've connotated it with the word Jehovah, which, of course, is from the Hebraic tradition, which is where we get our word Lord or God. Would you mind disclosing to us what exactly do you mean by jihad?
Well, the term jihad itself implies today, as you mentioned, it's been connotated with the idea of flesh and blood jihad, only flesh and blood. We think of outbreaks, we think about explosions, bombs, suicide or homicide bombers, and that's all that we think about. We don't think about the force that calls it into check. We don't think about what it is. For example, the 3 theistic traditions of Catholicism, Protestantism, and Judaism all have historically been known for atrocities against mankind. We don't need to name them, but we all know about inquisitions, Holocaust, witch hunts, things like that. This is when there was direct access to free citizens. But now, what brought them into check? What brought the form of Catholicism of which we're familiar today, where their efforts are humanitarian, their scope is global, their efforts are always under the rule of law in whatever particular country they work in. For example, here in our country, they're brought under the rule of law, checked and balanced. Judaism, which was in great adversarial relationship with Christianity when it in its inception. Where's that? Where's the Holocaust today? What brought all that under and checked and balanced it? Well, this is the force of which I'm speaking, the power, the checks and balances that are ordained by the true and living deity, the deity of which the atheist actually negates. So jihad in that sense is a spiritual, dispositional, intellectual dispute, debate, dialogue, and its power is in the idea that it is an absolute in its effectiveness, in its application for a society. It is designed to nurture and foster the greatest potential of mankind.
The jihad.
The jihad itself, because it checks and balances and suppresses the destructive outbreaks that diminish mankind and find us always in an adversarial relationship. Because traditionally, you have Northern Ireland, Protestant, Catholic conflicts that will soon be brought under in check.
Right.
You have Shiites and Sunnis in the East who will not come to terms. You have radical Eastern outbreaks against the West. That is being brought under check.
Okay.
So,
okay.
but the force that's doing it is what I wish to opine by this initiative of Jehovah's Jihad. And taking the word jihad is exactly the prerogative of Jehovah. He'll take the term Yehovah, as he's in the Hebrew text. He is, was, and shall be. He'll take that term. It's his. He can do what he wishes.
Okay.
And he'll script it in a way that's more powerful and prevailing than the current abuse of it by those who aren't worthy to even use the term. Because to misuse it, whether in expression or in statement, negates their prerogative to exercise it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Now, in the preface, your acknowledgement is a quotation: "For all peoples will walk a man in the name of his gods, and we ourselves will walk in the name of Jehovah, our Elohim, forever and ever." To me, after reading the book, it seems a most fitting acknowledgement. Might you briefly lead us into the direction that this quote is pointing?
Well, ultimately, if we will, the safety,
Mm-hmm.
the accommodation, the provision, the freedom, as often stated, of a religious expression,
Yeah.
necessitates an absolute single deity, divine source to provide all that. For left to themselves, religious expressions would come into conflict that would only escalate
Mm-hmm.
into the flesh and blood, the outbreak of destruction and death.
Okay.
Held in check, they're accommodated, as you read the script so well. We ourselves will conduct according to Jehovah, and
Okay.
according to the implication of the text, it is our adherence to Jehovah that is essential to fostering and accommodating and providing safety and
Yeah,
assurance
yeah.
for them to conduct according to their gods, because it's not their conduct according to their gods it's ever accredited by the scripts of
Mhm.
any, to my knowledge,
Mhm.
that produced the freedom for them to do so.
Would there be some sort of parallel, I guess, in the story of Moses when Jehovah God was taking the gods of Egypt and sort of executing them one by one during this whole line of plagues that Moses brought against Pharaoh, and then being able to free the people of Israel, bringing them out of Egypt? Is there some sort of parallel that we're seeing here, in the sense that that's what Moses did, and now?
Well, yes, because if you wish, which is very interesting, you brought that up.
Yeah.
But the story itself of Moses in Egypt
Mm-hmm.
and the responsibility to resist tyranny, it wouldn't provoke someone to wage war against an Egyptian culture that's variegated in its religious expressions
Mhm.
and identification of multiple gods, unless you wish to invade someone with a serpentine staff. Truly, the story, the account, the script was about a divine intervention
Okay.
against an oppressive ruler.
Okay.
And Moses went in and spoke. Now, you even hear archaeologists today, you hear people, scientists today, you hear all the academicians today, different fields, will view that and seek to try to explain it from natural causes, from how the
Right.
water becomes red. It doesn't
That's-
matter, but
doesn't
none of
matter,
them
exactly.
are attributing it
Yeah.
to Moses
Yeah.
as one who would go in and instigate a battle and then shed blood.
Yeah.
They all attribute it to something outside of Moses, which for us, we attribute it ultimately to the Jehovah.
Yeah.
So truly, jihad, according to that text, was to go as an ambassador and simply speak and allow the natural
Yeah.
calamities to ensue.
Interesting. Does Jehovah's Jihad dispel any sort of foggy misconception concerning the religious malcontent, that is, religious toleration versus religious intoleration?
Well, certainly understanding Jehovah as the absolute construct that is neither
Mhm.
restricted in the element of religion or politics or any other field, law, legal, whatever, the person that would understand then that to tolerate or intolerate is really quite irrelevant.
Okay.
Under the rule of law established and ordained and placed for us among our culture, among our global society of humanity,
Yeah.
by Jehovah, the ultimate deity from which that concept and construct originated,
Yeah.
then one doesn't need to exercise tolerance or intolerance, but in places where rule of law has not yet been established.
Okay.
So in our nation, through litigation such as the judicial or executive or legislative branches of government, we, the people,
Mhm.
produce a state, a government, that through the legislative act, the state, the government now checks and balances, if you will,
Yeah.
direct access to us. But no one has to suspend the implementation and application of the rule of law because it's already established.
Yeah.
Now, in perhaps in process of establishing rule of law where there is no rule of law, yes, you would have to depend upon the personal tolerance or intolerance of a despot, a ruler.
Yeah.
You'd be at his discretion.
Yeah.
The reason why we in America have an aversion for tolerance or intolerance is because it is our right to presume and to expect adherence to the rule of law.
Yeah.
So that a law-abiding citizen is not someone I tolerate.
Yeah.
They're protected by the law. They're not someone that even if I intolerate them, am I free outside the rule of law to express myself against them? I can speak against them. I can disagree with them.
Yeah.
I can ignore them or engage them, as we've said previously. But the truth is, the only reason we would have tolerator or intolerator, which I sarcastically, somewhat satirically, called them gods.
Right.
We now have new gods, the God intolerator and the God tolerator.
Yeah.
What prevents that from oscillating? It becomes a subjective, but under the rule of law, which has now been well established and well protected and preserved, such as Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Constitution, scripts. We have the Catholic tradition, we have the Protestant tradition, we have the Judaic tradition in this nation. We have several bodies, if you will, of scripts that the principles of which all originated from Jehovah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that there is nothing about us that lacks the education and information to understand the strength of our freedom is based upon our application of the rule of law. And that application is always outside of ourselves, superordinately imposed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.